April has just officially started, so that means it's time for another monthly favorites video. So let's go ahead and roll the titles now, shall we? My name is Kirsten, and I can't believe April just officially hit. And ironic enough, I am actually filming on April's Fool's Day today, which is kind of strange. Don't have any April Fool's jokes for this week alone, but by the time I upload this video, it will be April 5th. So pretty much a late start for an April Fool's joke, pretty much. But anyway, that's not really the point. So today, of course, since April just officially started, that means I'm gonna do a March favorites video. And to be honest with you guys, it was somewhat uneventful that I didn't really do much, to be honest. But I figured I would go ahead and give it a try and go through some of the things that I've been absolutely loving and enjoying for the whole month of March, actually. So, before I completely get started into this video in particular, if you guys are new to this channel and if you haven't done so already, please do consider subscribing to my channel with notifications on. I upload brand new videos every single Friday. So without further ado, I am gonna go ahead and dive right on into these topics. So for the whole entire month of March, I did had a chance to read 2 books in particular, believe it or not, because it's been a while since I've actually read. The first book I wanted to mention is called Art and Fear, Observations of the Parallels, I think, and Rewards of Art Making. It is by David Boyles and Ted Orland. So I uploaded this on my Instagram page, actually, and gave my thoughts about this book. But basically, I remember reading this book back in my creative writing class, when I was in college, actually. And this book is a very short read, and it's only like about, I think, nine chapters, I believe. It's only like about 9 chapters, and it's only like about 100 something pages, so the book is relatively short compared to when I read the Stephen King book, It. So this is definitely a short read compared to the other one. But basically, this book definitely opened my eyes of how to be a little bit more, how should I say, outgoing or pursuing my art a little bit more. So this has definitely got me thinking and doing stuff since I read this book. So I highly recommend you guys read through this book if you are a creative individual yourself. So really good book. And final book that I wanted to bring up, but most definitely not least, and it is an acting book. It is called Respect for Acting, written by Uta Hagen, I think her name is. Hagen or Hagen, something like that. And it's a very interesting book about how you can get into acting and start acting, and how you can actually think about acting. This was really insightful, so if any of you guys are interested in acting yourself, this is a pretty good read for you. So I do highly recommend this very much. So that's been all the books I've been reading for this month. So for the movies, and of course the TV shows in particular, I had a chance to watch 2 movies and 1 TV show. So not really much going on in the watch department, I guess you could say, but I figured I would share them with you guys anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and begin with the TV show that I recently watched this month, and it is called The Haunting of Hill House. And I was relatively curious about this TV show for a while, but I never had a chance to watch it all the way up until just recently, actually. And I absolutely love that TV show. The TV show itself is pretty awesome, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm definitely looking forward to season 2 coming up and see what that has to offer, so that's really neat. With that being done and out of the way, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to 2 movies that I had a chance to watch. The first movie I had a chance to watch, it is called Instant Family. So it is a movie with Mark Wahlberg, and it is basically a movie about adoption and what it's like to go through the whole little process of adoption. So that one was definitely a really big eye-opener. I thought it was a really good, heartwarming film, and I absolutely loved it. And I can actually relate to this a lot, to be honest. Not that I've actually been into adoption centers or foster care, but I can really relate to some of the things regardless. But that's something I'll have to get into in another video, because I feel like that's too emotional for me to go ahead and talk about. But moving on into the other movie that I had a chance, and this was kind of like last minute actually, from yesterday. Well, the day that I'm filming is April Fool's Day, and it was a couple of days ago or something like that. But final movie I had a chance to watch, but most definitely not least, it is something I never thought I would be able to watch, to be honest. And that movie in particular is called Aquaman. The guy that plays as Aquaman, I recognize him from season 1 of Game of Thrones, where Daenerys Targaryen was married to him. I don't know what the actor's name is, but he did play as Khal Drogo in Game of Thrones. I don't know his real name in real life, but he played in Aquaman, and he's the lead actor for Aquaman. And to be honest with you guys, I never thought I would be able to like this movie, but surprisingly enough, I absolutely fell in love with that movie so much. And maybe it's just myself personally that gets into like underwater adventures, because between like landscapes and like underwater landscapes, I just think it's absolutely breathtaking and gorgeous. And just so many amazing animals in those waters and everything else like that. I just really get into that so much, and I fell in love with that movie for that particular reason alone. So it was also a pretty good movie, and surprisingly enough, they're already coming out with an Aquaman 2. I never watched the trailer, but I've seen that on YouTube somewhere, and I thought, wow, this was wow, this was a really big hitter. But anyway, yeah, pretty good movie. I highly recommend you guys watch these things, because they're all really good. So unfortunately, for the whole month of March, I didn't have a chance to play any video games at all, surprisingly enough, because normally I play at least one game every month, but especially if it's something new. But I didn't really feel like playing any games that month for some weird reason. I just mainly wanted to read books and, you know, try to focus on other projects, sort of speak. But there is one game in particular that I have been playing on my phone, actually. And that game in particular that I tried out, actually, it is called Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. And I was relatively curious about playing that phone game in particular, and surprisingly enough, I really did enjoy it. I love how interactive it is, and just all this other kind of cool stuff, customizing your character and all that kind of stuff I think is really, really cool. I think there's just something about the game I find really cool for a mobile phone. So if you guys have not played that game in particular, I highly recommend you download the app and try it out for yourself, because it is actually really fun. So just recently lately, since I don't really travel much, I figured I would put in like travel and events type of thing, just in case if, you know, there wasn't really much that was going on in particular. But there was like 2 events that ended up happening for the month of March. And obviously my aunt and my brother both had their little birthday that came up, so I thought that was really interesting. And let's see, I recently went back to working out at the gym, and I've been feeling so great and fantastic lately. I feel like I've had so much energy, and I've been sleeping better, and I'm making wiser decisions on eating a little bit more healthy than I usually do, and all this other type of stuff. So going to the gym has been feeling so amazing for me lately. It's just really awesome. And a final thing I really wanted to point out in talking about events still and whatnot. So if you guys follow me on Instagram, and if you've seen my stories, you guys already know about this by now, but I went into a sort of like motocross racing thing that I got to see for the last week of March, and it was during the weekend, obviously on a Saturday. And it was just really interesting to watch. I haven't been to a racing game in a very, very long time, because when my brother was really young, he got into like supercross racing and all that kind of stuff. So it was really interesting to watch, I'm not gonna lie. Really interesting to watch. And I had a good time that day too. Oh, one other thing I forgot is the fact that I went to a bar again, and I got to have a few drinks, and I got to dance, and it was a really fun time. I relatively enjoyed it. So that's pretty much all of my travel and events that I did, so I thought that was really fun. So to begin with some of the foods that I've actually tried out and loved, there was definitely quite a few foods that I had a chance to try out and love. Some of them are more of like a junk food based type of food, and the others are more on the healthier spectrum towards the end a little bit, so I thought I would go ahead and point that out. I tried out, let's see, DV's kettle corn, I think in one of my previous monthly favorites video. And I got to try out their brownie cookie sandwich, and they were really good, and surprisingly enough they were actually vegan, so that was really awesome that they included that vegan label. I also got to try out the bobo bars again, and I think in one of my monthly favorites videos I did mention that I tried out their bars before. I got to try out the bar version of that, and now I had a chance to try out the stuffed oat bites, and it is in the flavor of peanut butter and jelly, and I thought it was relatively good, and I was pretty impressed. So as you guys know, I have been really loving the Beyond brand lately, and I think stuff like that just really tastes so amazing. So I think the last time I tried out the Beyond brand, I tried out the Beyond sausage, and this time I got to try out 2 different kinds of Beyond products actually. The first one I wanted to mention is the hot Italian sausage one, and surprisingly enough, maybe it was my taste buds, but in my honest opinion, I actually thought it didn't taste too bad, and I was relatively surprised by how good it was and all that kind of stuff. And of course, speaking of Beyond products. The next one I wanted to mention, of course, it was during the weekend and of the motorcycle cross racing thing. And basically what I ended up doing was I ordered the Beyond Burger from Carl's Jr. and watching the plant-based news on my Instagram, I found out that they released the Beyond Meat Burger, and I was relatively surprised and happy that they released that, so I was all like, oh hell yes, I'm gonna go over there and get it. So because I was closer to Carl's Jr., I went over there and tried out their Beyond Meat Burger, and I thought it tasted so amazing. And I'm really glad that they're including that in like fast food places now, because I think that is really awesome. Of course, I had a chance to try out a new ice cream brand that I thought would be really interesting to try out. It is by Coconut Bliss, and I got to try out the vanilla flavor one, and I was actually really surprised by how good it was. It tasted like actual vanilla ice cream, and it's been a very long time since I had ice cream and stuff like that, so I thought it was really interesting to try out that plant-based product, so I was relatively happy. And of course, with my Coconut Bliss ice cream, I went ahead and I did some Reddi-wip. And yes, surprisingly, Reddi-wip made a veganized version of their whipped cream. There was another one I spot that was made out of coconut milk. This one is made out of almond milk, and I think it tastes so amazing. So whenever I have desserts, I like to whip this up with my vegan ice cream, and it is really, really good. I really enjoy this so much. So one drink in particular that I had a chance to try out, obviously I tried plenty of the KeVita brands before in the past, and one flavor that was relatively new to me that I thought I would try out, it is called the Mango Coconut, which seemed like a really weird combination to me, but I figured, you know what? I may as well go ahead and try it out, and I was really impressed with it, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And of course, still speaking about drinks and whatnot, as you guys know from one of my previous monthly favorites videos, I tried out the Mama Chaya Blackberry Hibiscus, I think, and this time I got to try out the Strawberry Lemonade, and the Strawberry Lemonade one was actually not too bad itself. And the Mama Chaya drinks are pretty good. Because they have chia seeds in them, they kind of taste and have that texture of pudding almost, which I thought was really interesting to think about, because the texture and the taste of it kind of reminded me of that. And of course, still talking about vegan junk food in particular. So as you guys may not have known, long before I became vegan or even vegetarian, I used to love bologna sandwiches so much. I used to like having them with like bread and ketchup, sometimes even mayonnaise with it for some weird reason. And when I was in Sprouts the other day, I encountered I found a veganized version of a bologna sandwich, and it is by Yives, I think the brand is called. And it's been a very, very long time since I had a bologna sandwich, and the taste and the texture of it definitely reminded me of bologna, so I thought it tasted absolutely amazing. I tried out another Just Cookie brand, and it is the birthday cake version of that one, and I thought it tasted so, so good. And of course, last but most definitely not least, I tried out the Dave's Killer Breads English muffins, and surprisingly enough, they tasted relatively good, and I was really impressed with it so much. So a couple other food brands I forgot to mention in my monthly favorites video, I thought I would go ahead and point out anyway. So as you guys probably already know from one of my previous monthly favorites video, I tried out the Boca falafel sandwich things, And this time I wanted to try out the Chipotle falafel balls, and they were really surprisingly very flavorful, and I really liked it so much. So I was easily impressed with these babies right here. Oh, and also speaking of falafel sandwiches and stuff like that, I went into a Greek restaurant and I tried out the falafel wraps, and surprisingly they were vegan, and it was, I forget what restaurant it was. There was like some kind of Greek restaurant that I went in and I tried out their vegan falafel wraps, and I was easily impressed by how good it actually was. I tried out their cucumber salad with it and I thought it was relatively good. So when I watched Happy Healthy Vegan's YouTube video on Morningstar, actually, one thing I was really happy about is that Morningstar is finally going vegan as early as, like, I think it was in 2020 or 2021, something like that, and I was relatively happy to hear that. And already they have like veganized products on the market out there, and one of their items I decided to try out is the burgers. It is the Veggie Lovers, and it is surprisingly vegan, and I was relatively surprised by how good these were. I was relatively impressed, and good on Morningstar for finally going vegan, because I know they've been vegetarian for quite a long time, so it is really amazing to hear about that amazing transition. So really awesome to hear that. So to begin with, like these large box packets, if you will, I went into, I believe, Costco the other day, and I got to try out some kind of curry based product, and this brand right here is by Everyday Dell. It has red lentils, butternut squash, and coconut in this, and I usually like pouring this on top of any kind of rice, and it usually tastes so good with any dish if you put this on top of rice, so I was easily impressed with that. And finally, last product that I had a chance to try out finally, and this was a relatively late start too, but most definitely not least, I decided to try out the rice ramen noodles, and it's made out of red miso paste, and the red miso paste stuff, or like the powder red miso stuff, was surprisingly really spicy, but in a way it's like a really good spice, and I was relatively impressed by how good this stuff actually was. And you can't go wrong with any kind of noodles, and especially ramen noodles, because you can put anything in ramen noodles. So I thought I would go ahead and point that out. So yeah, those have been all of my food. So yeah, that's been all the foods that I tried out for the whole entire month of March. So all of that stuff was really good. So this month, for the whole music section, I've been re-listening to Korn lately, and I think their music is relatively good, and they're a pretty good band overall. The band itself has really strange music sometimes, but some of that strange music I actually really like. And some of their stuff is relatively new to me that I've never heard before, so I'm definitely gonna go into the stuff that I've never heard of before, music-wise, from some of their albums and stuff like that. One song in particular, it's something relatively new, and it is called A Different World, featuring Corey Taylor, and it's very catchy, and I really enjoyed that song in particular. It's really, really good. And off of one of their albums, which many people were not a huge fan of, and it is when he collaborated with Skrillex, I believe. in just one album in particular, but basically one song in particular that I thought was really catchy to listen to. It is called Narcissistic Cannibal, and yeah, it's pretty cool and very interesting to listen to. And finally, this is something I thought I would bring up last, and it was a very emotional song by Korn, which was really surprising to me, considering that all their music is real fun and upbeat and all that kind of stuff. The song itself is called Daddy, and it's based off of their self-entitled album. And listening to the lyrics was very dark and just so brutal. And you would think like a music title like Daddy, for example, would be something more of a fetish related thing, you know, because you know, some men like to be called daddy as like a kink fetish or whatever. But there was something about the song that felt really heartfelt, and I can't imagine what Jonathan Davis actually went through. And when I was listening to the song, it made me thought of like he was molested by one of his relatives. When I researched into it, it turns out that he was molested by a stranger. And there was a moment in the song where he broke down and cried so hard, and just listening to the disturbing lyrics and, you know, listening to Jonathan Davis actually break down and cry just, you know, almost made me cry myself. And it's been years ago since he released that album in particular, and especially that song, but it really does hit me really hard where it hurts. I've never been in a situation where I was raped or molested, but I can really be a little bit more sympathetic in that type of situation. While I've never been in a position like that myself, some of my folks in my family has, unfortunately. I don't want to name names or, you know, just bring that kind of stuff up out of respect for both sides of my family, and it's too personal for me to talk about, but listening to that song really did open up my eyes and made me thought that is really hard to talk about, honestly, and people like that don't know what it really feels like until it happens to them. So that's something I feel like people don't seem to get nowadays, especially if they've never been in a position themselves. So that's something I'll just bring up. Final word, done. And but yeah, those have been my Korn music that I've been loving and listening to. And I'd say from then on there, that's pretty much it. So that has been my favorites lately for the whole entire month of March. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video altogether and what I had to share. So if you did, be sure to sucker punch that like button down below. Comment down below as well, let me know your thoughts and feelings, anything in particular. And of course, if you guys are completely new to this channel, and if you haven't done so already, please do dedicate the time and effort to subscribe to my lovely channel, join my little army of darkness, and if you hit that notification button, you will be updated with brand new videos every single Friday. If you guys are interested in following me outside of YouTube, all of my social medias will be listed in the description box right down below if you are indeed interested in checking them out yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a completely chill week, an awesome day or night, and I will talk to you all soon in the very next video. So until then, stay completely dark and so fucking brutal and awesome, my friends. Take care. Bye for now.